Now it is time to wrap up Kapitel 23. So it's just one little unit on the dummy S. Is S as a subject, but isn't like a real subject. Anyway, so we have, of course, our exercises from the end of the last unit. So let's look at those. Hin and her. So, ich gehe schnell zu meinem Freund Hannes hinüber, which is I'm going over to my friend Hannes' house real quick. Schnell. Real quick, or just quick. Yeah. So I'm going over. Hinüber is basically over. I'm going over. And so it's like, is it the hin or is it the über that is going over to? I guess it's the über, right? But hin indicates I'm going from here, away from here to there. So you don't really translate them separately. It's just one thing. I'm going over to my friend Hannes' house. And then, pass auf, dass du nicht hinunterfällst. Be careful that you don't fall down. Yeah, so unter would be down. And then falling already implies down, right? So you could say, be careful that you don't fall, or that you don't fall down. And then hin here is saying, like, both of the people are at the top, say like rock climbing, and then both of the people are at the top, and the person says, pass auf, dass du nicht hinunterfällst, meaning be careful that you don't fall. We're both up here, and if you fall, you're going away from me, down, right? It's possible, like if you said her, it would mean the other person was the speaker was at the bottom, and then like don't fall towards me instead of away from me. So it's possible to do both versions, but this one is, but basically you can't really convey that in English, so falling already implies unter would be the down part, right? So you can just say, be careful that you don't fall or fall down. Yeah. Kommen Sie in die Wohnung herein. Come into the apartment. So imagine if the herein wasn't even there. Kommen Sie in die Wohnung. That already looks like come into the apartment. Like you would already translate that as come into the apartment. But then herein is used in German to indicate like the speaker is in the apartment and they're talking to someone outside the apartment. And so it's like, come towards me. So that's what the herein is, come towards me. But the ein is also in, so it's just a lot of things that sound like the same thing in English, so you just say, come into the apartment. Ja, ich komme gleich hinein, which is then, yes, I'm coming in right away. So I'm going like in that direction, but you can't really convey that. So yes, I'm coming in right away. And then gib das her, das gehört mir. Give it here, we say in English. And so this is interesting because we say give it here, as in give it like in this direction to me, right? And then, or you could say give it to me, either way. And das gehört mir, that belongs to me. Okay, so now let's look at some ways we can use S. Of course, it's just it, right? And it's called the dummy S because it is the ways to use S that don't really refer to anything. It's just there as a placeholder. Yeah. So German often uses the word S, which is it, of course, as a placeholder to give the sentence a form, to give the form of a normal statement, to give a sentence the form of a normal statement, yes. So in these situations, S is a placeholder with no grammatical function, so the finite verb, the conjugated verb, agrees not with S, but rather with the singular or plural subject of the sentence that follows the verb. So in translation, S may be eliminated entirely or translated as there. So let's look at some of these. Es bestehen zwei Möglichkeiten. There are two possibilities. Bestehen means so many things. If you look up bestehen in the dictionary, it means, in this case, it means they exist, they are. Bestehen can mean a lot of different things, but it's like it, two possibilities exist. It's like really, really weird to try to do it one-to-one in English. So it exists two possibilities, which is not right. So there are two possibilities, or two possibilities exist. Es sind mehrere Möglichkeiten zu erwähnen. So it's like it is, existing are several possibilities to be mentioned, right? So several possibilities should be mentioned. And then es bildete sich eine Gruppe von Menschen auf der Straße. So it's like it formed itself a group of people on the street, right? So it's like, what does that even mean? It formed itself. It's sort of a passive thing, like a group of people formed the street, or a group of people was formed in the street. Yeah. So and when you see something like this, an S that seems to not really translate or refer to anything, just leave it out, and you can just take whatever is after the verb and make that the subject. So in all these you have zwei Möglichkeiten, mehrere Möglichkeiten, eine Gruppe von Menschen auf der Straße. All of these things after the verb end up being subject in the translation. And you can say, yeah, there are, or just use the thing at the afterwards, yeah. Okay, so es gibt we've been doing for a long time. There is, there are, right? This is different because es gibt, it's always es gibt, and it doesn't change to a plural if something's after it. So if you look at this, es sind mehrere Möglichkeiten zu erwähnen. So that's not the right, like es sind, that's not right. You learned how to say es ist, it is, es ist. So you see how sind isn't even conjugated for es. It's conjugated for Möglichkeiten, which is plural. So these two belong together, and then the S is just there hanging out, not really doing anything. So es gibt, but with es gibt is conjugated for S, and S is the subject. So, and it doesn't matter if the thing after it is plural, it's still going to be es gibt, because S is really the subject here. Es gibt nur eine gute Antwort. There is just one good answer. Es gibt nur eine gute Antwort. Aber es gibt viele schlechte Antworten. But there are many bad answers. And so it's still es gibt. It doesn't change because of the fact that the thing coming after is now plural. So es gibt is different from this es sind we just saw. Even though you might translate it as there are in some cases, right? Es gibt nur eine Möglichkeit. Früher gab es viele Möglichkeiten. So this is the same, there is only one possibility. And then this is gab is in the simple past. There were previously many possibilities. So the simple past, if gab were conjugated to match Möglichkeiten, it would be gaben, because in the simple past you do get endings, right? So es gab, this gab is conjugated for es, not for Möglichkeiten. So we have clauses without a subject and implied s. So sometimes we have a place where you don't see an s, but then you would put an it into your translation. So we have, for an example, bekannt ist, dass, it's known that. Yeah, so very often, if you're going to have some sort of little statement here, and then you're going to start a clause with das, then you just say, known is that, and so in English you wouldn't say known is, you would say it is known that. Yeah. In vielen Fällen kann gesagt werden, in many cases it can be said, but there is no it here, there's no s, right? In many cases can be said, but there's, it's just not there. That's just how these sentences are made sometimes. And then the das, right? Dabei konnte festgestellt werden. In the process, it could be determined that, but if you look, there's actually no it in there. In the process, could determined be, in the process could be determined that, and so when you translate it, you think, well, that sounds a little wrong, but then you add the it, and you're like, oh, then that's how you would say it in English. So then we just have the end of chapter exercises for chapter 23. And you will see some of the structures we've been going over in this chapter. And hopefully these will be doable for you. And we will see each other in Zoom and, of course, in the next video. And we're in the home stretch now. It's very exciting. So, viel Spaß beim Übersetzen. Wir sehen uns im nächsten Video. Und tschüss. Bis bald.